Astrid.
Hi, Satana.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, very good.
Good, good, good. Thank you so much for being here today. You're my first guest
Oh
on
my,
the podcast.
I'm so honored to be here. This is so exciting. I listened to your podcast and I just like fell in love with it because I love hearing you speak. I just feel like you're a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. So thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Astrodology with Astrid. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself. And I'm so excited today because this has basically been a solo cast, even though I say podcast. And I've had the intention of having guests on. I started having some conversations. So I think it's so important that we focus on self-care. So that's why I'm excited about my first guest because I've been a person interested in alternative remedies. I feel like we have so many different tools in life. And what we're going to talk about today, to me, is a very potent and powerful tool. It is such an honor to have Sathana Selvum here. I'm saying your last name correctly, right?
Yes, Sadhana Salam. Yes.
Yes, and Satana, we met during one of our retreats, one of our wellness retreats. She's a hypnotherapist. I'll have her talk more and introduce herself. But I'm so excited because you'll pick up quite quickly just her naturalness, her genuineness. And that's what I really love. Like, she's just a quiet storm. You just feel in your presence, Satana, you just feel your nervous system just relaxing.
Thank you. That's so
You bring
sweet.
that to the work. So, since this podcast is about wellness and empowering people ways that they can heal themselves, I'm just thrilled that you're my first guest because I feel like hypnotherapy is overlooked. A lot of people misunderstand what it is and what it isn't. So I'd love to have you just step in and tell us about yourself, and we'll just make it more natural. We'll have a back and forth and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. There's so many, misconceptions about what hypnotherapy is, and people don't, it is overlooked. And I also just want to say thank you for the amazing introduction. Astrid is literally the best. I have had the best healing sessions with Astrid as well. She does the most amazing acupressure sessions, like phenomenal.
Thank
Um,
you.
uh, yeah, so I'm introducing myself. So my name's Sadhana, for anyone who doesn't know. I'm a certified hypnotherapist. And a little bit about my backstory. My family is from Tamil Nadu, India. So my family immigrated from Tamil Nadu to Ireland to the US. I was born here in the US. And I got into hypnotherapy as a client first. So I did talk therapy or CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy in school. Kind of just felt like I was talking about the problem over and over again, and I wasn't really seeing long-term results. And then a family friend of mine told me about a hypnotherapist in India named Ishita. Shout out to Ishita. And hypnotherapy helped me heal from PTSD and stage 4 endometriosis, which are two
Wow.
things I was told I would have for the rest of my life, like by, psychotherapists, doctors. And so Ishita became my mentor. And then I went and studied hypnotherapy in Tempe, Arizona, at SWIHA, the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. And then I also did another program called Rapid Transformational Therapy with Marissa Peer. She's like a celebrity hypnotherapist. Um,
Mm.
so, yeah, that's a little bit about me, what I do. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. Kind of just like what you were saying, there's so many misconceptions with hypnotherapy. Like people think like I'm a stage hypnotherapist or a stage hypnotist. This is not Hollywood hypnosis. Everything I say is a suggestion, and you have the power to accept or reject that suggestion. Should I get into what hypnotherapy is, or?
Yeah, I wanted to pause there for a moment
Yes.
because in you talking about your story, I think it's so powerful with this endometriosis. I'm working in the wellness and supplement
Ah,
sector now, and endometriosis is still alive and rampant. So I want to definitely circle back to that because, again, women have tried so many different things and ultimately surgery is suggested. I think that's so powerful. And you also spoke about CBT therapy
Hmm.
and the repetition. I've always wondered about that. Words have power, right? And
Yes.
then we it's called spelling because we use our words. We cast spells with our words. And I do come from the school, like you just keep repeating something. So if someone has a diagnosis with a terminal illness, the more they repeat and keep talking about it and talking about it to everyone that they know, it actually doesn't help with the healing. So
Yes.
I just so impressed with your courage to try different things. You went down the typical path. You need talk therapy, you need this, but so powerful. So I just want to book in that so we come back to that.
Yeah, or I can talk about it right now because I feel like we're just in the
Yeah, we're
flow.
in flow. We're
Yes, even with endo, I think it's like, oh my God, endo is such a nightmare of a disease to have, a chronic illness. I mean, it's the most painful thing I think I've ever experienced in my life.
And is
And
that how
it's
you
not,
discovered it? You had pain. How did you discover that you had it? Because you're so young.
yeah, so for me, I mean, the average woman with endometriosis, it takes 8 years to be diagnosed on average for endometriosis because so many people, so many doctors don't believe us when we tell them
Wow.
about the pain. Because if you don't know what endometriosis is and you're listening to this, um, it's, and I'm sure that there's probably more technical language that I could use around endometriosis, but just talking about the symptoms, it's like extreme, excruciating pain on your period. And I don't just mean like light pain, I mean like you cannot walk, you are stuck in bed. You are, I mean, for me, it's like I felt like I was going to pass out. I would be throwing up. I would be just in horrible, horrible pain, back pain. To the point where I would have to go to the ER for it. Um,
Wow.
and I wasn't believed. And that was really, there's a lot of medical gaslighting, I think, when it comes to endometriosis. It was very
Yeah.
hard to be believed. And so for me, so I started my period when I was 14, 13, 14. And then by the time I was like 21 was like, it was unbearable.
Mm.
And I felt like I would go to the doctor and then usually for endometriosis, and you might hear this with, the work that you're doing with when helping people with supplements and stuff, in regards to period pain, they're like, oh, well, if you want to get diagnosed, you have to get like a I forget the name of the exact surgery, but it's kind of like a discovery
Oh, a
surgery.
myomectomy or something like
It's
that?
something like where they like go and check if there's endo, but
Oh
it's
gosh.
not like they actually get rid of it. So and at that time, I was like, I just get rid of it if it's there. Like, what's the point of that? And it wasn't until I
While
actually,
you're there,
yeah,
be there.
it wasn't until I went to the ER because my heart rate went up during my period. I was like, I think it went up to like 120.
Like a racing heart,
Yeah, like a racing heartbeat.
palpitations.
Yeah, heart palpitations, and like they said like, oh, you need to be in the ER, and that was when they started believing me. Um, And then I did get an emergency surgery after that. And that was when they were like, oh, you have endometriosis. And I had a cyst on my ovaries.
Oh,
Um, specifically, I don't know how in detail you want me to get in here, but
go for it because this is about wellness. I mean, this is empowering someone. Someone right now may be listening or know someone. This is
yeah,
endometriosis is a big darn deal that's still so quietly spoken about, you know?
yeah, I had a chocolate cyst. So when you have a chocolate cyst, it basically means that the endometriosis is spread to the point where it's like your organs are sticking together.
Oh,
And it was the most painful thing. And I had it for years and no one believed me.
wow.
Um,
So that
mind you, that was
affected
at
your
the,
bladder. That affected your bladder greatly because
yeah,
it's
just like
almost like matted together, right?
everything around your pelvic area.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it was brutal. And then after that, usually for most women with endometriosis, they tell you, well, there's two things you can do. You can either get pregnant or you can go on this thing called Lupron, which is a type of
Oh,
chemotherapy.
I took Lupron. because
What'd you think?
I had a partial hysterectomy, and
Oh,
it was controversy. My naturopath did not want me to take Lupron, but my
no.
surgeon said it could help to shrink. He goes, "Oh, just take it; it'll help shrink." So I ultimately chose it because it would help assist his surgery. I had laparoscopic surgery done.
Hmm.
So ultimately, so then my naturopath said, "Okay, just do it. We'll clean you up after. We'll detox you and do all the
Yeah.
protocols after."
Yeah. When did can I ask when you had a hysterectomy?
It was 2013, but it was partial. I still have my ovaries. So it's a
Okay.
partial hysterectomy. Yeah.
Sure.
And
Sure.
mine was due to fibroid cysts.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
relate to some of the pain.
Yeah. For me, I think they don't do hysterectomy for younger women, or it's like really like, oh, well, are you gonna have
Yeah.
kids? Or you not? Yeah. Um,
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Intense. But we're here. We're both here to help people and women and people learn how to heal themselves and advocate for themselves. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I don't know what Lupron was like for you, but it was such a nightmare when I took it.
Did it
Um,
throw you into after like menopause symptoms?
yeah, it
Yeah.
goes into menopause. So I was going through menopause at the age of 21. It's and
Unbelievable.
so, but I mean, it's a chemotherapy that's used for prostate cancer, but they also use it for women with endometriosis.
Wow.
But it
So
throws
are
you.
you saying they suggest that women just stay on it?
So the Lupron, I think it's like a year-long treatment, I want to say. Yeah, I think it's like a year long. And it's either 6 months or a year long. I can't remember the exact amount, but um, wait, what was the question? Sorry.
Is it something you would stay on since they
Oh,
recommend it as a protocol? Did
yes.
they expect you to have it lifelong, just be on Lupron?
Yeah, so it's 3 months, it's 6 to 12 months from what I remember, and then you get a shot like every 3 or 6 months, I think. I remember it being really expensive though. I think it was like $10,000 at that time, which is
Mm,
like a shot, $10,000 a shot or something. And
not sustainable.
not sustainable, but they don't expect you to be on it forever. But after you get it, if you're not better, they will recommend surgery. And when I went to, they sent me to a specialist because I wasn't getting better. It was kind of like a band-aid fix. And it also gives you a host of other problems because you're constantly like it's a type of chemotherapy, right? So you're constantly, for me, it was like I would wake up puking. I would puke 4 to 5 hours a day.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm already kind of thin, so I'm not the type
Oh,
of
you couldn't afford to lose 1 ounce.
I wasn't the type of person to be losing more weight. Um,
Wow. You're
so
enlightening me too, because I think that's also a stigma that endometriosis affects, maybe I've heard of like late 20s, 30s, but I've never heard of anyone so young, like
yeah,
yourself.
it actually is. I think it's more common in women that are younger. I think we just
Ah.
don't talk about it because periods actually aren't supposed to be painful. Like they're not
Mm,
supposed to be painful, and it's actually usually because of a hormonal issue or
mm,
something. I think in our external environment because we live in such a toxic environment that we have
absolutely.
period pains happening. I also don't like the word period. I think it's very like dismissive of like,
What would you prefer?
I don't know, maybe moon cycle. That would
I
be
like
better.
the word cycle. I love cycle.
Yeah, moon
There was
cycle.
a lady in Los Angeles. This was about going back. She was a forerunner, maybe going back at least 20 some odd years, that she called it the sacred cycle because our ancestors, when they cycled, they weren't out in the world, they weren't working jobs. So everyone knew, oh, she's cycling. So you would sit in a tent, you would sit over a bowl, and you would just take care of yourself. Like the first 3 days are so critical. But in our modern world, got to get back to work and gotta. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
love that sacred cycle. That's a good one.
yeah, it's a good
So,
one, right?
like, because I think even moon cycle comes from like the idea of actually it would I don't know if it's like an indigenous thing.
Well,
Um
it assisted with time.
yeah.
They noticed, I'm like, this is why women are so amazing, and I really do want people to honor their cycle because what we release like 76 toxins every month. Some people really hate their period. They hate. So part of the sacred cycle is like you're detoxing is why women live historically longer than men because we're every month you're cleaning out. Um, but it helped discover the 30-day calendar.
Yeah. Oh, very
Someone noted that they did like the hashtag thing, and approximately every 27 to 30 days they noticed that these women had this blood thing going on. That
amazing.
helped us with our modern calendar
You're
system.
welcome, everyone.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow. So how did hypnotherapy support you in this? This is what's fascinating.
Yeah, so okay, so going back to where I was at. So I was on Lupron and then they sent me to a specialist doctor and this doctor was like she specializes in like pelvic pain, endometriosis, and she was like, "Okay, yeah, if you want to get this surgery, I do an excision surgery." So it's like where they do like a laser surgery to
Mhm.
excise the endometriosis. And that was like $120,000. I remember. And it doesn't even, there's not a guarantee you might have to get it every few months. If it is like, she's like, yeah, it'll probably come back again. So you have to get it every few months. Like, this is just going to be a part of like your life. And I was like,
Wow.
absolutely not, because when I got my first surgery, it took like 6 to 8 weeks even to be able to walk normally again, to do things normally again. And I was like, no, that's like,
What
it
does
was.
that do the chances of conceiving?
I know that people say that it can be harder with endo to conceive, but then I also hear that's kind of a myth. So I'm not really sure about that. I haven't had a
Okay.
baby, but I'll let you know if,
It's very specific though, like anything, there's always nuances that go on.
yeah, for sure. But I know like when you have endo, they say like if you get pregnant, it'll heal your endo. So
Mm,
you won't have
okay.
pain. Um,
Okay.
but with hypnotherapy is really the thing that set me on the right path to finding the right healers and practitioners to help me heal myself. So much of like healing, especially healing a chronic illness, it's not just a physical pain, right? There's often something mental, emotional, a spiritual reason possibly behind it. And so for me, it was really healing a lot of uh past traumas, a lot of
Mm,
uh traumas from the past, like a sexual assault,
okay.
healing, shame around sexuality. I think a lot of South Asian Tamil women have that, when we're kind of shamed for having a sexuality, for, even having a crush on a boy. That was
Mm,
like, absolutely not. You're not allowed to talk to boys for me as a kid, right? And so just healing a lot of things from the past. At that time, I had a sexual assault maybe a year earlier, and had been going through a rape investigation, and that made me physically sick.
so sorry. Wow.
Yeah, like
You,
physically ill. And I think it actually made the endo worse as well.
of
Right.
course, of course.
Yeah, the stress of it. I mean,
Sorry. Wow.
the majority of survivors that I've talked to that have also been through sexual assault investigations have been like, yeah, it made me physically sick. Um,
Mm,
but really what hypnotherapy really helped me with was one, helping me um let go of pain. So it helps me with a lot of pain management.
mm,
A lot of the sessions would be like me using my subconscious mind to help heal my ovaries, help heal my body, right? Our body has a healing mechanism of its own. It knows exactly how to heal itself, right? Our body has an intelligence, a wisdom of its own. And being able to tap into that wisdom and that intelligence to help heal my endometriosis, get rid of the pain. Which was massive for me. And then also letting go of a lot of trauma, being able to let go of trauma from my body. And then also knowing that, like, I think the beautiful thing about hypnotherapy is that it really helps you just feel really safe in your body,
mm.
and being open to suggestions and, right, the positive suggestions that your hypnotherapist gives you. Um, and it really helped me with knowing, like, okay, that was in the past. This isn't going on anymore. I'm safe now. I'm okay now. And just
Powerful.
being able
Powerful.
to also process a lot of anger in hypnosis, like anger at the person who assaulted me, anger at people I felt betrayed by, during the investigation, um, which, right, they say like 95% of your mind is subconscious, 5% of your mind is conscious.
Mhm.
And because hypnotherapy really helps heal subconscious issues, it can be really
That's the
huge.
key.
Yeah, and
Because it
healing.
says that the stories that we're running, you and I are consciously having this conversation, but right now it's being ran by the unconscious, though. Right now, it's picking up insights and about our conversation. We're pretty magical as humans, too, that we get to do that. But then we choose the negative stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever there's an option, people naturally tend to pick the negative option. It's like, well, wait a minute, there's also a positive option, too, that we seem to bypass.
Oh, yeah. Because they say like the average human has 50,000 negative thoughts a day. And it's like the problem is because it's like, okay, if we're gonna have those thoughts, it's just like we just don't need to believe them, right? It's
Right, right. And
like
that's the
the
thing you point out. They say we can't believe everything we think. And a lot often people say, well, I thought, that sometimes people say, well, I just thought. I'm like, I kind of rear back because you just thought. It doesn't mean it's valid. You
yeah,
know, our that's what our mind does. It just has a bunch of thoughts. So that's where being conscious, self-awareness and consciousness and then connecting with that is what gives us liberation. So I
absolutely.
feel like when I think of hypnotherapy, it's about liberation and freedom from suffering. You
Absolutely.
on the other side of meditation, I feel like some people that can't meditate, hypnotherapy is a form of meditation and release. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
The beautiful thing about hypnotherapy too, for people who like struggle with meditation, is that your subconscious mind does all the work for you. So like
Mm.
the thing about meditation is like you consciously kind of have to close your eyes and like be like, okay, mind, you need to be quiet. We're closing our eyes for the next 20 minutes. Just stop, right? And hypnotherapy, your subconscious mind does all of the work. So even with like, I've helped a lot of people with addiction and I've had clients that it's like they fall asleep in session, like every session, but 6 sessions later, they're not a smoker anymore. And it's been like
Gotcha.
3 years now, and last time I talked to them, they're like, "Yeah, haven't smoked, don't feel the need to." But
I
like,
love that your subconscious does the work for you. And love
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
just remember the session that you took us through was so powerful. And I always say to people, we overcomplicate healing. We
oh,
think it's got to be all this woo woo and all these tricks and bells and whistles. And I was so floored at how you took us into the hypnotherapy session. It was so easy and so simple. And
mhm.
what I also love is that in part two, we're going to do a part two to this.
Yes,
You're going to actually take us through a hypnotherapy session. But what I appreciate is that you want to empower people to also self-regulate and use hypnotherapy for themselves. That's what I love about your work. Right away, you gave us tools that we could take home and just do ourselves. It wouldn't circumvent working with the hypnotherapist, but it sure helped a lot to be
absolutely.
empowered.
Absolutely. It's very easy to go into a state of hypnosis. I mean, we experience hypnosis every day, like when we're driving and we get from point A to point B, and we're
And we
kind of
don't know how we got there.
yeah, we're kind of on autopilot. That is a state of
Yes.
hypnosis. Like when you wake up in the morning and you're in that waking state, that is a state of hypnosis. So it's a naturally
What
occurring.
about theta? Sorry to cut you off, but
Mhm.
theta comes to mind. So in doing sound healings, after 20 minutes, it says it takes about 20 minutes through sound therapy to fall into theta. So
Mhm.
theta is that lucid period when you're just falling asleep at night, and it's that lucid time when you're just coming to wake. So theta is deep in the subconscious.
Mhm.
Would that apply to hypnotherapy?
Yeah, it's a type of theta state that you're in, that state of trance. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I just want to go back for a moment because your journey with using the hypnotherapy, I know it's different for everybody's body and their trauma and their past, but about how long of a process was it to your journey to healing using the hypnotherapy?
For me, I went in for both a chronic illness and PTSD. So for me, I think it took 10 to 12 sessions.
That's
Um,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
But honestly, I wanted to continue with my hypnotherapist. I was like, I'll come every week. Like, this is great. Like, I feel good. Um,
Yeah, I've
yeah,
had the intention to reach out to you for more and more because the session was so powerful. When you did the other session with me, it's 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 a subtle science.
it is.
So sometimes people say, "Oh, I had it. I didn't feel anything." And I get this in the supplement world. They go, "I'm taking this. I don't feel anything." And I had an aha moment around it. And I this is the same thing for hypnotherapy. Just because you're not feeling something or noticing something, that's great. Because
Hmm.
our egos will jump in and do something with it. So unless you're vomiting and having some adverse and freaking out, it's working actually because yoga works that way. It's an inside job. So when you practice yoga, you're not going to see the external benefits of it till you've practiced it for a while. So by the time you see the external benefits, you're deep into the cellular structure of the body.
Yeah.
There's this whole inner pharmacy, like you spoke to earlier, an inner world that people dismiss. But just because you're not feeling anything, but I just noticed after the sessions I've had with you, there's just this homeostasis. It's just like almost like did you ever read the book The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, he talks about the watcher, like you're here, but you have
Hmm.
this watcher, you have this spaciousness. That's what I felt like. No matter what's going on, I felt like you're just in a state of non-reactivity as
Hmm.
well. So there's nothing physically I could say, but it's the emotional stuff. And that's why we're even here talking, right? It's the emotional stuff.
Sure. Absolutely. It's for me, it's kind of like a state of no mind. Like I'm just not thinking. Everything's just like clear, and I'm just in a state of like pure, feels like pure bliss, just like happiness, just like yeah.
Why does it work so quickly? I mean, that's hard for me to wrap my mind around because when you gave the meditation example,
Hmm.
meditation can be brutal when you first start just because our ego and our conscious mind tries to take over. And I tell people, you don't get to have silence and no thoughts. You have to practice. But I found hypnotherapy so approachable, and I'm just curious at why does it work so fast
Um,
to
I
go
want,
into the state?
yeah, I mean, it's like, well, first of all, we already know how to get into that state naturally because it is a naturally occurring state, right?
Mm.
Um, but I mean, it's healing the subconscious mind and the theta, when we're putting someone into theta, right, we're obviously going into a deep state of relaxation. Um, and so part of me wants to be like, oh, it's just magic. But
Yeah.
but
Remember Einstein said that he goes, we have to allow for magic and
yes,
the unknown. We don't have to solve everything. We don't have to have the answers to everything. He's like, some things just are, and just accept that they are.
absolutely. But it is really interesting. Like even like with the history of hypnosis, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like the history of hypnosis is like the first people that we know to have ever done hypnosis were the ancient Egyptians. And so
Mm.
they had these things called sleep pyramids or sleep temples. And
Oh,
in these
wow.
sleep temples, which were pyramids, they would put people into hypnosis for days, like three,
Wow.
4, 5 days, people who had these incurable diseases. And they would um, use their dreams that they had in hypnosis, and they would see those dreams as messages from God so they could understand more about their dis-ease, whether it was a mental, emotional, physical dis-ease that they were experiencing. And the ancient Egyptians, what they said was that a lot of people were healing from these incurable diseases. So people who were blind were able to see again. People who couldn't walk were able to walk again. So it's kind of the history of
Oh,
hypnosis.
amazing.
Isn't that
Amazing.
cool?
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool that after thousands of years, we're going back to these natural remedies because we're in a time where people don't want toxins, they don't want hormone disruptors. They want to get more back to natural life. And that's what I love about hypnotherapy. It's organic.
Yes.
There's no additives, no
Yes.
substance. It can be
It,
addicting in the right way,
it is non-invasive.
not invasive for sure. Well,
Yes,
gosh, anything you want to add? We'll do our next segment, but I think I love the way this conversation has flown. That just hearing more about your story and sharing, just that alone will liberate somebody. And I appreciate you. I want to thank you for being so vulnerable and so open, so transparent about it. You know?
absolutely. Thank you. Oh, the
Yeah.
last thing I would say is probably like one of the things you said was like, why is it so effective? I would say like hypnotherapy is really just tapping into your imagination. And so especially when you're helping people with like anxiety or, something like anxiety, right? They say like, there's a quote that one of my best friends used to tell me. She says like, worry is a misuse of imagination. And so, um, right, if you can
Oh
worry,
my God, I love
right,
that.
if you can worry about a thing and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? But then you can also think like, oh my God, what if this happens? And what if something
Exactly.
amazing happens? And what is the best case scenario that could happen out of this situation? That's kind of like what hypnotherapy is. It's basically taking the power of your imagination and instead of using that to worry, you're using it for the best case scenario.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Oh my
Yay,
goodness, I can't wait for part two.
I'm
So,
excited.
we'll convene here and in part two, I'd like you to go a little bit more into that and then um, lead us into a session or whatever comes up in this conversation.
Okay, that sounds
Thank you,
great.
Satana, so much.
Thank you, Astrid.
Okay.